Summary: Sun Wukong is subjected to the fire ice golden gaze punishment by being confined in Tai Shang Lao Jun's alchemy furnace. Buddha Tathagata intervenes and suppresses the Monkey King beneath the Five Elements mountain. Meanwhile, Tathagata decides to send the Tripitaka Sutra to the Southern Continent and Guanyin embarks on a journey to find the chosen monk for this mission. Xuanzang, who has grown to 18 years old, learns about his father's murder and his mother's ordeal, prompting him to leave the temple in pursuit of revenge. The story goes that Sun Wukong, the great sage equal to heaven, was bound to the pillar of exorcism and subjected to being hacked and chopped with knives and axes. However, it was unexpectedly discovered that not a single strand of hair could be severed. The Southern Deeper Star ordered them to burn him with fire and strike him with lightning, but it proved utterly ineffective. Tai Shang Lao Jun reported to the Jade Emperor, "This monkey has consumed 5 parts of my elixirs. Burning him with fire only resulted in him obtaining an adamantine body. It would be better to allow me to take him and place him in my 8 trigrams furnace. By doing so, I can refine my elixir, and his physical body will be destroyed." The Jade Emperor granted permission, and Tai Shang Lao Jun brought Monkey to the Dushui Palace. He removed the ropes and pushed Monkey into the 8 trigrams furnace. After 49 days had passed, the old lord considered that the timing was right. He ordered his attendants to open the furnace and retrieve the elixir. With a whoosh sound, the furnace door swung open, and from inside, Monkey King emerged, his appearance unchanged except for his newly acquired fire eyes, golden gaze. It turned out that he had hidden himself in the Zhang Palace position, where there was wind but no fire. The wind had fanned, transforming them into their current state. Monkey King let out a whoosh and kicked down the 8 trigrams furnace, then rushed out. Those who were tending to the fire and watching the furnace were all alarmed and rushed after him. Monkey King also caught up, and with one push, he toppled the old immortal down headfirst like an onion. Wukong swung his golden banded staff, striking left and right, until he reached the outside of the Linkseal Palace. Outside the palace, he encountered the true Lord Yusheng. The true Lord defended himself while calling for his subordinates to quickly summon the 36 Thunder Generals. In an instant, all 36 Thunder Generals gathered around and attacked Sun Wukong with various weapons, including swords, spears, knives, whips, rods, hammers, and axes, raining blows upon him like a storm of stars. Unfazed, Sun Wukong fought back while transforming himself. He grew 3 heads and 6 arms, wielding 3 golden staffs. With his 6 hands skillfully maneuvering the 3 staffs, they twirled around him in a chaotic dance. The thunder gods were bewildered, unable to get close. The sounds of the battle had already alerted the Jade Emperor. He dispatched the spirit officials, Yu Yi and the Venerable Lord of Aid, to the Western Pure Land to request the Buddha, Tathagata, to come and subdue the demon. The Venerable Lord of Aid quickly flew to the holy precinct of Ling Mountain, where the resonant thunder monastery was located. At the entrance, 4 Vajrapanas and 8 Bodhisattvas stood guard. The heavenly beings explained the situation to the Sublime Lord, and they brought the 2 saints to the foot of the lotus pedestal. The Buddha was seated atop the lotus, surrounded by auspicious energy. The two saints recounted the entire incident of the monkey demon causing havoc in the heavenly palace to the Buddha. The Buddha listened attentively without uttering a word. After hearing the story, the Buddha instructed the assembled bodhisattvas, "All of you, remain seated in the meditation hall and maintain your positions. Do not disturb the meditation. I will go and subdue this demon and rescue the heavenly palace." The Buddha, accompanied by his disciples Ananda and Kashyapa, arrived at the gates of Linksil Palace. The sound of battle reached their ears as the Monkey King was surrounded and attacked by the 36 thunder gods. The Buddha issued a divine order, instructing the thunder gods to withdraw and release the Monkey King. The Monkey King was in the midst of a fierce battle, and when he saw the thunder gods withdrawing, he put away his magical staff and angrily shouted, "Who dares to interfere with this battle, righteous or not?" Tathagata smiled gently and replied, "I am Gautama Buddha from the Western Pure Land. Namo Amitabha Buddha. I've heard that you are audacious and have repeatedly violated the heavenly palace. I'm curious about your origin and what gives you the audacity to act so recklessly." Wukong replied, "I am the spiritual immortal of Flower and Fruit Mountain. I possess boundless transformations, and I, Son Wukong, would like to visit the heavenly palace of the Jade Emperor." Tathagata responded with a cold smile, "You ignorant monkey. Unaware of the vastness of the heavens and the earth, the Jade Emperor has cultivated diligently since his youth, enduring 550 great kalpas. Each kalpa is 12,960,000 years. It is only after such immense effort that he attained the boundless great way. Your arrogant words may cost you your tongue." The great sage replied, "As the saying goes, emperors take turns ruling, and it's my turn this year. If I'm not allowed to sit here, I won't let him enjoy his peace and quiet." Tathagata observed that the great sage showed no signs of giving up and said, "There's no need to argue further. Let's make a bet. If you win, I'll ask the Jade Emperor to give up the heavenly palace. If you lose, you must return to the mortal realm and never cause trouble again." Tathagata stretched out his right hand, saying, "If you can somersault out of the palm of my hand in one go, then you win." Wukong laughed. All right, all right, all right. You have to keep your word," he thought to himself. "This monk has no idea about my abilities." He put away his as-you-will staff, summoned his divine power, and with a mighty leap, stood in the palm of the Buddha's hand. Wukong used his somersault cloud, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. The Buddha, with his divine vision, saw that the Monkey King was moving forward like a spinning windmill. As Wukong ran forward, he suddenly saw 5 pillars ahead, holding up the sky. Thinking that this was the end of the road, he joyfully muttered to himself, "Now, when I go back, the Linksil Palace will surely be mine." Just as he was about to turn back, he thought again, "What if they don't acknowledge our bet? No, I need to leave a mark to ensure that the naive monk doesn't go back on his word." He loosened his clothes and, right under the first pillar, he relieved himself, marking the spot with monkey urine. Then he plucked a strand of hair, transformed it into an ink brush, and wrote a line of large characters on the middle pillar. The great sage equal to heaven was here. Flipping on his somersault cloud, he reverted to his original form and stood in the palm of Tathagata Buddha, saying, "I'm back. Quickly tell the Jade Emperor to hand over the heavenly palace to me." Tathagata Buddha scolded, "You little monkey with a bladder for a brain. Lower your head and look closely." Great sage, with your fiery golden eyes open wide, you saw that the middle finger of the Buddha's right hand had written, "Great sage equal to heaven was here for a visit." As for the puddle, it was actually splashed onto the joint of the Buddha's large finger. It turned out that the flashy column was not a pillar supporting the sky, but the Buddha's finger. The great sage, with his face reddened in embarrassment, shouted, "This is wrong. This is wrong. Clearly, I reached the end. But how am I still at the edge of his palm? Let me try again." Just as he was about to leap out, the Buddha turned his palm and gently pushed the Monkey King out of the western heaven's gate. His 5 fingers transformed into 5 mountains: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, and gently pressed him down. Having subdued the demon, the Jade Emperor issued a decree to gather all the gods for a feast, where they enjoyed dragon liver, phoenix marrow, jade nectar, and peaches of immortality. At the gathering, the Buddha sat high on a 7-jeweled tower, and the gods came forward one by one to express their gratitude for his help. While they were celebrating, a heavenly official rushed in and reported anxiously, "The monkey demon has stuck his head out." The Buddha took out a note from his sleeve, on which were written 6 golden Sanskrit characters: Om, Ma, Ni, Ba, Mi, Hum. Ananda took the note and went out of heaven's gate to the top of the 5 Elements mountain. He affixed the note firmly to a square stone. The mountain rooted itself even more firmly. But Wukong used his breath control techniques, and with his hands, he managed to climb out and struggle free. On this side, the gods had finished celebrating, and the Buddha bade farewell to the Jade Emperor and departed for Mount Ling. Before departing, the Buddha, in a compassionate gesture, summoned a local earth deity and a 5-direction deity. The Buddha instructed them to watch over the mountain. When Wukong got hungry, they were to give him iron pellets to eat, and when he got thirsty, they were to offer him molten copper to drink. Not to mention when Wukong might be able to leave the 5 Elements mountain. Let's first talk about the Buddha, who bid farewell to the Jade Emperor and returned to the Thunder Monastery on Mount Sumeru. There, 3,000 Buddhas, 500 Arhats, and the 8 great Bodhisattvas all came to welcome him. After some time, during the Ulambana festival, the Buddha instructed Anuo to hold his precious alms bowl. In the bowl, there were 100 kinds of exotic flowers and 1,000 different fruits, which were distributed to the various bodhisattvas by Mahakassapa. As the Buddha began to speak, the heavenly dragons surrounded him, and a rain of flowers descended, creating a colorful spectacle. After finishing his sermon, the Buddha continued, "I see that the 4 great continents have different levels of virtue and vice. If we talk about greed, lust, violence, and disputes, the southern jambud viper is particularly afflicted. I now possess the Tripitaka scriptures, which can guide people towards goodness. The three collections that Tathagata referred to are the Dharma collection, discussing heaven, the Discourse collection, explaining the earth, and the Scripture collection, guiding the spirits. There are a total of 35 sections with 15,144 scrolls. These three collections of scriptures require a person with a pure heart who believes in Buddhism to undergo countless hardships, travel through mountains and rivers, and come to seek them from the Buddha. After obtaining them, this person can then go on to enlighten and guide other sentient beings. Buddha wanted to transmit his Buddhist treasures to the Southern Continent to find a person with a virtuous heart and strong faith in Buddhism. So he asked, "Who will go there to search for such a person?" Avalokitesvara stepped forward and said, "I am willing to go." The Buddha was delighted and said, "Avalokitesvara, with your great supernatural powers, you are indeed the right one to go." The Buddha gave Avalokitesvara detailed instructions on what to do and how to do it. Afterward, the Buddha took out 5 precious items, a kasaya robe, a staff, and 3 tight-fitting headbands. The Buddha said, "Let the chosen monk wear my kasaya robe to avoid reincarnation, carry my staff for protection against harm, and use the 3 headbands to subdue powerful demons and spirits. Ensure that he becomes a devoted disciple on his journey to retrieve the scriptures." Avalokitesvara carefully noted everything, collected the 5 treasures, and summoned the monk Hyen to accompany her on the journey. Farewelling the Buddha, Avalokitesvara and Hyen descended from Mount Ling and set forth towards the eastern land through the misty clouds. It is said that in the eastern land, there was a great empire known as the Tang Dynasty. Emperor Taizong ruled for 13 years, and the realm enjoyed an era of peace and prosperity. In that year, an imperial examination was held, and the recruitment of talented scholars was announced throughout the realm. Scholars from all over the country flocked to Chang'an, the capital city. In Haizu, there was a scholar named Chen Guangrui. After passing all 3 rounds of the imperial examination, he achieved the top score and was crowned the champion. He paraded through the streets on horseback for 3 days to celebrate his victory. Prime Minister Yin Kaishan then gave his daughter, Mentangjiao, in marriage to Chen Guangrui. After a few days, Emperor Taizong appointed Chen Guangrui as the prefect of Jiangsu, and Chen Guangrui, accompanied by his wife, went to Jiangsu to assume his new position. Traveling day and night along the way, they arrived at the Hongjian ferry that day. They found 2 boatmen to ferry them across the river, one named Liu Hong and the other named Li Biao. The 2 boatmen, Liu Hong and Li Biao, were originally not the most virtuous individuals. When Liu Hong saw how incredibly beautiful Chen's wife was, he started to have evil intentions. On the 2nd night, while the boat was in the middle of the river, the 2 boatmen, Liu Hong and Li Biao, killed Chen Guangrui. They had previously murdered a household servant. Mrs. Chen, filled with sorrow and anger, attempted to jump into the river, but Liu Hong rushed forward, held her back, and alternated between threats and pleading. Mrs. Chen, realizing that she couldn't escape for the time being, reluctantly yielded to Liu Hong's advances. Liu Hong dressed in Chen Guangrui's clothing and pushed his corpse overboard. When the boat reached the shore, Liu Hong instructed Li Biao to watch over the boat, while he, impersonating Chen Guangrui, took Chen's wife and proceeded to Jiangsu to assume his new position. After several months, Chen's wife gave birth to a child, and in a daze, she heard a voice saying, "I am the Southern Polar Star God, acting on the orders of Guanyin Bodhisattva. I am delivering this child to you. In the future, he will be extraordinary. Take good care of him. Your husband has been saved by the Dragon King and will have a day of revenge." After Chen's wife regained her senses, she couldn't help but be filled with doubts and astonishment. At that moment, Liu Hong entered the room. Liu Hong understood that this was not his own child and wanted Chen's wife to drown the baby immediately. However, she pleaded, asking for permission to keep the infant for one more night, promising to take care of it the next day. The next day, Chen's wife bit her finger and wrote a letter in her own blood, detailing everything that had happened so far. She then bit off the little toe on the baby's left foot, using it as a mark for identification in the future. Then she carried the baby to the river bank. At that moment, a wooden board suddenly floated up in the river, and Chen's wife placed the baby on the board. The wooden board drifted away, and Chen's wife prayed to the heavens with tears streaming down her face. The baby drifted to the foot of the Golden Mountain Temple, where he was rescued by the monk Fa Ming, who discovered the blood-written letter. 18 years later, the baby had grown into an adult and had his head shaved and received ordination. The elder Fa Ming gave him the Dharma name Xuanzang, and he would later become known as Xuanzang, the monk who embarked on the journey to the West to obtain Buddhist scriptures. After becoming a monk, Xuanzang repeatedly inquired about his origins from the senior monk. Unable to hide the truth any longer, the senior monk presented him with the blood-written letter from all those years ago. Xuanzang, after reading the blood-written letter, fell to the ground in tears. He choked up and said, "If I don't avenge my parents, how can I call myself a man? I must go and find my mother." After 18 years, the Lady Chen had been constantly thinking day and night, not knowing the fate of her son. On this day, while Liu Hong was out for some business, a maid reported that a monk had come to seek alms. Mrs. Chen had him brought in, and upon seeing the monk, she was taken aback. The way this monk spoke and acted bore a striking resemblance to her husband, Chen Guangrui. Mrs. Chen dismissed the maidservant and cautiously asked, "Young monk, what is your name? Do you have parents?" Kneeling on both knees, Xuanzang took out the blood-stained letter, weeping as he spoke. "My father's name is Chen Guangrui, and my mother is named Mantang Zhao." Mrs. Chen's mind was struck with a sudden realization. She stepped forward and asked Xuanzang to remove his shoes and socks. Sure enough, she noticed that Xuanzang was missing a toe on his left foot. Mrs. Chen let out a loud cry, "My child," and then fainted. The next day, Xuanzang carried his mother's handwritten letter and rushed to the capital city to find his maternal grandfather, Chancellor Yin. Chancellor Yin learned of his daughter's ordeal and immediately reported it to the Tang Emperor. The Tang Emperor dispatched 60,000 imperial guards who arrived at the private office in Jiangsu, captured Liu Hong and his gang, and took them to the execution grounds where they were beheaded. Prime Minister Yin, his daughter Man Tangzhao, and his grandson Xuanzang were reunited, their emotions a mix of sorrow and joy. Xuanzang sought revenge and insisted on returning to the Golden Mountain Monastery to continue his practice and repay the great kindness of Elder Feiming. Furthermore, Emperor Tang decided to hold a water and land Dharma assembly to transfer merits to the spirits of the deceased. He ordered officials from various regions to select virtuous and accomplished monks to gather in Chang'an for the assembly. Additionally, a highly virtuous individual would be chosen as the presiding monk to oversee the ceremonies. The chosen presiding monk for the assembly was none other than Xuanzang from the Golden Mountain Monastery. Xuanzang arrived in the capital, and Emperor Taizong bestowed upon him a high official rank and gifted him a golden kasaya robe and a Vairocana crown. In the 13th year of the Zhenguan era, on the 3rd day of the 9th month, Chen Xuanzang, the great Dharma master, gathered 1,200 senior monks at the Shanhua Monastery in Chang'an City to perform the recitation of various sutras. Emperor Taizong personally led civil and military officials in offering incense and bowing before the golden statue of Buddha and paying respects to the arhats. Furthermore, South Sea Guanyin Bodhisattva, upon arriving in Chang'an, searched for the one destined to undertake the journey for the scriptures for several days. However, no individual of exceptional virtue was found. On that day, upon hearing of Emperor Taizong's proclamation of virtuous deeds and the organization of Buddhist rituals, South Sea Guanyin Bodhisattva, along with Haiyan, hurried to the event. The Bodhisattva, holding the pure vase and waving willow branches, manifested her true form in the sky above the ceremonial altar. Emperor Taizong, Master Xuanzang, civil and military officials, monks and nuns, and the common people, to their knees in prayer upon seeing the Bodhisattva's arrival. In mid-air, the Bodhisattva twirled and dropped a written note. On it, it was written, "In the Western lands, there are wonderful scriptures, but the journey is long and perilous. If anyone is willing to embark on this pilgrimage, they shall attain the true golden body of enlightenment." The Tang Emperor was overjoyed and asked, "Who is willing to undertake this noble mission to the Western heaven, pay respects to the Buddha, and retrieve the scriptures?" Xuanzang replied, "This humble monk is willing to go and retrieve the true scriptures to ensure the eternal prosperity of our great Tang." The Bodhisattva dropped 5 sacred treasures from the sky and said, "These 5 treasures will protect you and turn adversity into fortune on your journey." After saying this, the Bodhisattva disappeared from sight. In the 13th year of the Zhenguan era, on the 12th day of the 9th month, Emperor Taizong conferred the title of Ten Sanzan upon the Venerable Xuanzang and led civil and military officials to see him off on his journey. To learn about Xuanzang's quest for the scriptures, please refer to the next installment.